Wilson.
And you come very, very highly recommended. One of my dear friends said, hey, do you know who Ann Wilson is? And I said, yeah, I've seen her play at the Opry before, or at least videos.
Yeah.
I'm at the Opry a lot and I perform. I said, yeah, she's awesome. She's a great singer, Christian artist. And he said, well, yes, and she's very country, and she's also in that space. And I said, I did not know that.
Yeah.
Because I just knew you from, your music with a message is what it feels like. But then, I started to hear some of your songs like, oh, for sure, it makes all the sense in the world. But you come really highly recommended.
Aww.
I don't know you yet. We're like, have we met each other? We're like, I guess not. But yeah, people love you that know you, so I'm very excited that you're here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You grew up Kentucky?
Yeah, Lexington.
Did you grow up around bluegrass at all?
Yes, totally.
Like I asked that question to everybody from Kentucky because you have to a bit.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
And what about family-wise musically? Did anybody play an instrument in your house?
Well, not really. I guess my dad played a little bit of piano, but my mom's side of the family is very musical. Like her brother was always running around the house as a little boy with a guitar in his hands and singing.
So your uncle, her brother.
So yeah, my uncle. Yeah. So we have music in the family. Yeah.
But did that affect you to get into it, or was it kind of a resource once you knew you loved music that you could also be like, oh yeah, Uncle Jimmy played?
Yeah, well, what was cool is like really up until I started singing, like I really didn't think about my family like musically. I was like, I didn't really use that resource until I started music, and then I was like, oh, this is amazing. I have like some built-in mentors in my family that can kind of help me through it. But no, it wasn't until I started singing at 15 that I really kind of would go to them with advice and stuff like that, which was really cool.
Did you love singing even younger than that? And you just thought, well, this is just a thing you do for fun and alone. When did you start to go, I think I want to do this in front of people? Not as a career, I just want to do it in front of people one time.
Yeah, well, I actually never wanted to do music as a kid. I was not the type of like kid that was running around the house like singing and playing, an instrument my whole life. My brother was tragically killed in a car accident when he was 23 and in 2017, and I was 15. And we had gone to sleep one night. I have a sister and my parents, we were together, and we wake up in the middle of the night and the police are at our door telling us that he had been killed in a car accident. And so life pretty drastically changed in like pretty much overnight. And we were obviously so heartbroken and devastated. And I think I remember having this very vivid moment when I found out that he had been killed, that I realized that I had to make an impact on this earth with the time I had left. And so for me, that was music. It just kind of came out of nowhere, and my parents had never heard me sing before. My siblings had never heard me sing, and I actually sang for the first time in front of anyone at his funeral when I was 15. And so kind of singing at the funeral, really, I remember having this feeling like this is what I'm made to do. This is what I'm supposed to do. But up until that point, I had never sang in front of anyone before, and I had no interest in music, like doing it professionally. I wanted to be an astronaut. I wanted to work for NASA.
Very different. Yeah, extremely different. You sang What a Beautiful Name at your brother's funeral? Why that song? It's your first time. I spoke at my mom's funeral, and I know there's like 80,000 different emotions pulling you in different ways. I was nervous. I was going to not say something right. I was obviously extremely distraught because my mom had died. There were all these things. So I chose my words carefully, and then even then, it didn't go like I thought. But when I wrote it, I felt like I had a reason I was writing what I was writing. Why did you pick that song to sing?
I think for me, it was this moment of realizing I had to trust God in this horrible loss in my life. Like I had a moment right after we found out that he had been killed that I remember thinking like, if I do not put my faith and trust in God, I'm not going to survive this loss. And so that song had just come out like maybe 2 or 3 months before he passed away. And I had never even really listened to it up until that day. And it just was in my mind. I'd seen it on like Instagram or something, and it was in my mind. And so I just remember like listening to it the day he passed away and feeling like there was such a surrender in that song of just surrendering my pain and suffering to God and asking like, Lord, I'm choosing to trust you. As hard as this is, I'm choosing to trust you during this hard time. And I felt like it was just like a sacrifice really for me to the Lord to be like, I'm doing this for you, But in that, he guided me on this such a beautiful journey I've had so far, and literally all started from that moment of putting my trust in him in that moment.
You chose to sing. This is just so interesting to me. If you just never wanted to be a singer, because you could have said stuff, you could have did you know you could sing pretty? Because again, it's not like I want to go to my mom's funeral and juggle. I don't know how to juggle. I mean, I get know a little bit, but I don't do it well enough to just be like, hey, everybody watch.
Yeah.
So singing, why did you think that you could go up and sing? Did you have confidence in your singing voice?
No, I don't know how to explain it. It was just like, I just had the strength to go do it. And it was so interesting because my sister played the piano at the funeral and she couldn't even get through her piano performance. But I got through. We had 2 funerals for him and I got through both of them without crying or breaking down, which is another thing.
Isn't
like,
that
how
crazy?
did I even do that? Yeah. But I think it was just like, like my soul knew I needed that in that moment. I guess that's the only explanation. So singing was like healing for me. I think it just helped me heal and kind of put things back in perspective for me. And yeah, it's crazy to think back on.
Crazy to think that that's where you went. That's where you are now.
Yeah.
That was the first time you went there, and that you didn't, crack it all while singing. I remember when I was speaking at my mom's funeral. She died in her 40s, and I remember speaking, and
sorry.
I started cracking. I started crying a little bit, and I talk for a living, but this is different because it's real. Like this we're doing here is goofy. It's fun. It's awesome, but it's, we go out and have our real lives after this. And so I started like crying, and everybody in the audience, it wasn't a comedy show, but everybody in the that's sitting in there, they started to feel bad for me because I'm struggling through it. And somebody left their cell phone on, and it starts to ring, and it was an old song. I remember it was Jim Croce. And it's like, you don't tug on suit. And everybody started laughing, and I was right back on. Right back on. And I needed that to get through. So when you said you were able to get through it, I mean, I kind of emoted out loud. I was like, oh, because there's no chance. But I feel like in the same way that you said that somehow you got through it, and you know how you got through it. Like I feel like I don't even know if anybody called that phone. Maybe the thing just started playing, and it's what kind of put me back on track.
Yeah.
That it is a very difficult thing to do, and it's just wild to think that is what started this for you, this part of your life. You would never want to do it again, but something has come from that.
Yeah.
That
so
is
special.
That is so special. My Jesus, did it come from that situation?
Yeah, I had been writing I moved to Nashville when I was 17, right out of high school. I moved when I was, I guess, 18, but I signed a record deal when I was 17, a junior in high school.
That quick?
Yeah, it was so fast. And then my whole life just turned overnight. And then I moved to Nashville. I graduated high school in 2020, so only 4 years ago, which is crazy. And then started writing songs. And at that point, I had already written like maybe 120 songs for the record. And then I walked into a writing room one day, and I had that title in my head, and the other 2 writers I had never worked with before had the exact same song title.
No way.
Never spoken.
Wow.
And so I was like, I want to write a song called My Jesus, about what it means to have a relationship with him. And they were like, we had that exact same title too. So we wrote the song like within maybe an hour or 2, and then we walked out that day knowing that it was something special. But I would have never dreamed that it would have done what it did and impacted the people the way that it did.
Do you ever sing the song that you sang at your brother's funeral again?
Yeah, I actually did it on my tour that I had this
Really?
fall. It was so special. It was such a special moment. And I played the piano like I did at the funeral and everything, and it was really cool.
When did you start to learn music? Because again, if you're just singing for the first time at 15, did you already have any piano background at all?
Yeah, my mom forced us to take piano lessons as kids. So we all 3 took piano, and I had been playing since I was like 5 or 6. So I'd had kind of that background kind of going into it. So I was able to play the piano at the funeral. And then as I've now, become an artist and everything, it's helped a lot just having that background. It was almost like it was always meant to be, and I just didn't realize it,
What did you not expect about being an artist? Because now you're having to do a lot of stuff that you don't see whenever you see the people being interviewed.
Yeah.
Or like what's been the biggest surprise about what you have to do as an artist that isn't out front?
I think I just didn't realize how much hard work it was, like the sacrifice that artists have to make, leaving their families, going on the road all the time, sacrificing things that most people don't have to, but the reward is so great because for me, it's like getting to see how my songs like specifically impact people's lives is really what keeps me going and what drives me to continue on. Because I think music is so powerful and it has the opportunity to literally change someone's life. And so that's a really special thing that kind of makes it worth it. But definitely like the travel and the sacrifice, I didn't realize was it at all.
The album Rebel that's out in April, how is it different than the other work that you've put out? Just from looking, because I haven't heard the whole thing yet, but would you have recorded like songs about whiskey on a Christian record?
Yeah. Yeah, it's so interesting. Like this record for me was really healing to write because of my brother and everything. And like the last record, the My Jesus record, was a lot about my brother Jacob and our memories together. And this record was really just like a new chapter, just a new season. And so it was really healing for me with my brother to write it, and just kind of felt like I kind of healed and moved on a little bit with it. But no, like these songs it's so authentically me, which is so interesting. I feel like people are kind of wondering, like, are you leaving Christian music, or are you going to country music, whatever? It's like, it's just an extension of who I am, just in a different way than the last record, if that makes sense. Like the last record was, country sounding, but heavily Christian message. This record is still my faith-based message, but with a little bit more country added to it. Just my roots, kind of going back to where I came from and the things that, make me come alive. And so, yeah, like Songs About Whiskey, it's just like, I love that song because I think people are going to see that title, but then they're going to realize it has such an interesting twist to it. But yeah, the record I'm so excited about it, and I can't wait for it to come out.
I know you and Chris Tomlin did a song together, and I know Chris a little bit. Love him. He's like the greatest dude ever.
Yeah, he's so sweet.
And I asked him if he's held to an unfair standard where people think that like he's closer to Jesus than they are, because he's always preached, and they have this expectation that he needs to be perfect all the time. And he's like, yeah, it's a real thing. Like, because he's not. He's like, I'm very flawed. And like, everything I do is just like anything that you do.
Yeah.
And do you ever experience that where you feel like you can't actually have or show and present a normal life because of what the expectation is as a Christian artist and the work that you've done in the past?
Yeah, there's definitely an expectation there. I think some people don't like to talk about it, but I think it's just, I always just like when fans come up and they're like, you've saved my life, I always like to just be like, well, I really didn't. I just kind of like to remind them of like where that's coming from, that it's not me, but it's the Lord. And I think people just, I think they do have an expectation of that we somehow as Christian artists that are on stage are holier than everybody else, which is not true at all. We're all the same. So.
You ever say a bad word?
Yes.
I don't know. Some
we
people,
all do, don't we?
I'm just asking. I would love for you to sing for our audience.
Yeah.
Would you do God and Country? I think that would be a fun one to do.
Yes.
Introduce your guys here.
Absolutely. This is Chris and Andy.
Hi, guys.
They're the best.
Good to see you guys. You're like, sometimes in a singing group, if they have, or a duo, they're like dressed the same, but they're absolutely opposite. It's like the clean cut guy, but like his opposite. Like he's got long hair, but they look kind of the same colors. Like it's like if Destiny's Child was you. You guys would be that, yeah. I think it's the perfect time for you to exist in the musical space, and I'll tell you why. It's only recently in the last couple of years that you've been able to see artists do multiple and be in multiple places and it be accepted. Meaning, and you're not the same, although very, very similar, you and Jelly Roll. Meaning, I'm kidding, you're not like Jelly Roll. But, Jelly Roll's a guy who he's still relevant in the hip-hop space, but he also can do country, and nobody's fighting to be like, you're this or you're that.
Yeah.
And you are an extremely gifted country artist, and you are a proven Christian artist. And I think it's a great time for you to exist because you can exist in both spaces. And I know I have friends that are prominent in the Christian space, and for them for a long time, slightly less now, it was almost like a turf war where people would be like, you can't leave country, then you're not part of us anymore.
Yeah.
But I'm seeing less and less of that. And I'm wondering, although you've only been in it for a few years, are you feeling pretty welcomed in the country music space and welcome to go do what is country music with a Christian message by the country art fans?
Yeah, honestly, I really am. I was shocked. Like when I first started in this about a year ago, I was honestly like so surprised. I was like, everybody's so nice and like welcoming. And I think it's because God has always been like a pillar of country music. So I think people, it's like, faith, family, country, like all those things. And so people have been really accepting and have kind of cheered me on to go do this, which has been awesome.
What about on the Christian side? Because in the past, not maybe now, but Christian stations will be like, well, if you're going to go do country stuff, well, then you're not one of us.
Yeah.
Is that it seems to be happening a little less and less too.
I think so, yeah. I haven't had any of that yet.
That's all we're talking about, though.
You're secular now.
Yeah.
Right, and you can be both.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. I think it's a great time, like the perfect timing for you to exist because you can do both and nobody questions either one of them.
Yeah.
Because 3 years ago or more, they would have. And you had to be one or the other.
Yeah.
And I think that, heck, if you want to do a hip-hop album, I'm in. You can rap, too. You could come in and do that as well. Let's do the current single here. So This is Rain in the Rearview. Her name's Ann Wilson. Let's just play a little. You write this one? Who'd you write this with?
Oh, goodness.
Zach and Matthew and Jaron?
Yes.
I love Jaron. I love Jaron, by the way.
Yeah, he's awesome. He's crazy. I love him.
I probably won't see him next week at church, though. Not the church I go to.
Probably
Jaron
not.
rocks pretty hard. Not that he won't go to church, but he's probably asleep, Sunday morning. You and Lainey Wilson did a song together. I'm sure you guys made, we're sisters. That joke.
Yeah.
Lainey pretty inspiring as far as like just generally artists, but like female artists that come up and are like, this is who I am.
Yeah.
And take it or leave it. Like Lainey as an inspiration, I'm sure there's some of that, right? Because she's a few years ahead of you and has kind of carved her own path.
Yes, she's a huge inspiration. She's one of my good friends. She's been like a mentor to me. And so it's just been really cool to kind of like grow up together and kind of do this together. Because like we started like right around the same time back in 2020, 2021. So it's been really cool to have her as a big sister.
Is your band all dudes?
Yeah, I love it.
What is it like being the woman?
I love it. They're like my big brothers, and it's so sweet. And there's no drama because the girls are so much drama.
No drama, more farting.
Yeah.
Like that would be, that's what you give and get with a bunch of dudes on a bus. Yeah. That's awesome. How long have you been with these guys here in your band?
Kind of I guess a year, right? A little over a year.
That's like a quarter of your career performing in Nashville. Dang. You're so good. And
thank you.
You have such a spirit about you. You're very warm. And my friend was right. You really are great. You have a huge career ahead of you. And whatever you choose to do, even if you choose to do, it's not even both. They're just so, the Venn diagram, that those bubbles are just almost completely covering each other anyway.
Yeah.
So it is really cool to see you. Just kill this. I see you're on CMT's Next Woman to Country.
Yeah, so excited.
So that's cool to be embraced. Amy, anything for Ann?
Well, what about writing? Like you said that you didn't know you wanted to even sing for so long, or that you could even sing till you were 15. But then, you start singing and then you pump out like hundreds of songs. So when did you start writing, and how did you know you had a talent there?
I started when I was about 16. And I had my previous manager kind of took me to Nashville and set me up on these like random co-writes. I'd never written a song before in my life. And I just kind of like, I don't even know how to explain it. I just would write the song with them. I'm more of like a melody girl and like a title, like I'll like come up with a title or something. I'm less like a lyric person. But yeah, it was just kind of like out of the blue random. I started writing songs, and it's been so cool to look back on it now.
I think looking back on your journey and how you got here, I think it's probably really encouraging to people that are going through something hard, and you knew in that moment you needed to surrender. And then that's how you were able to get here. Like losing your brother, it's sort of, okay, well, what are you going to do with this? And you have to surrender, because it's almost like you're at a fork in the road, and you could have gone another direction that, could have given you a completely different life. But that surrender gave you the strength to find what it is you were meant to do, and gives meaning to that. And like, what does this make possible? And like, so it's showing people of like, okay, you have two choices right now. And surrendering is the harder option.
It really is. It definitely is. Yeah.
Well, this has been awesome. You're awesome. You're great.
Thank you.
For free, I like to do this for my guests. I'm going to give you 2 song titles that you can use next time you write. Number 1's a little something I'm going to give you called God's Lit.
Okay.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
Okay.
I like that.
And the other one is Let Jesus Cook and Then Eat. Because those are also slang terms. So it's both, right? It's like cook for the people, like let Jesus cook, then eat.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
So have them on me. I don't even want any credit.
Much.
Yeah,
I can't wait.
100% publishing to you. Yeah, both are great. And I've been holding on to them for a while. I was going to give it to Tomlin, or I was going to give them to Ann. I'm going to go. You guys follow Ann at Ann Wilson Music. Ann has an E. Ann Wilson Music. Thank you. Big fans. Thank you guys for coming in.
Thanks for having us.
And hopefully we'll see you soon.
Yeah.
All right, there she is. Ann Wilson, everybody.
It's a Bobby Bones Show.